Hey, Gamer Dan.
Hey, hey, MatMadik. How
Yeah,
you
man.
doing?
It's good, yeah. Boy, I'm really pleased with all that we were able to say on the Mario movie up to this point. And
Hmm.
I'm looking forward to eventually getting back with Professor Suzuka and t tucking into localization and so on with
Hmm.
other gaming brands and so on. Yeah. And not to mention, I understand that you come from a background in theater, well, not theater, but studying movies and other things. So there's a bunch
Yes.
of stuff we can also talk about in the future. But right now, our core is gaming. So and today we're dealing with the recently dropped Tears of the Kingdom on the Switch.
Yeah, I'm
So,
actually playing it as we speak. So
hey,
yes, I have.
good.
The moment it dropped,
Mm.
the moment it came out, I dropped the game I was currently playing, and I just couldn't stop playing it. I'm a long time fan of Zelda, and as you say, my background creatively has been theatre, performance, and then as I grew a little bit older, that was youth, and then teenagers, young adult. I was into video production, filmmaking. I studied it at film, so the creative arts is kind of my wheelhouse, and I like to use that in what I'm doing with teaching. But The Legend of Zelda has long been a series that I have just holds so true in my heart. I've finished almost every game in the series. I've completed at least half of them. Um, but it's because there is such lore, such heritage, there's such pageantry. There
Mm.
is no, it's not just a good game; it's a good story, well told, and that's just chef's kiss. That's my kind of thing. And this new game, this Breath of the Tears of the Kingdom, it's. I have thoughts, I have some notes, but let's get down to it.
Super. All right. All right. What we could do, what we did last time with the Mario interview is we started off with your overall thoughts, but if you want, maybe we could get through the questions and give your thoughts at the end, or you can start with it. What would you prefer?
I will. Let's do the questions first. I will make a statement and I will clarify it at the end. So those of you watching, you're gonna have to stick till the end.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, let's get it going. So, question one. What do we got here? All right. So now, as a longtime fan of the Legend of Zelda series, how did the Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom meet or surpass your expectations in the terms of gameplay mechanics and the overall experience? Or if fall short if that's your answer, that's fine.
That's fair. Yeah, Breath of the Wild was a bit of a gear shift. On an earlier video where we talked about the Zelda series, I mentioned that the Zelda series was beloved, was well crafted, but it became sort of a katamari of tropes, of sounds and characters and abilities. All these small gameplay tropes that over decades built up and built up and built up until it became so unyieldy it was almost impossible to make the next game without finding places to put all this stuff. All the lore was just buried under every rock in the nook and cranny. So Breath of the Wild was essentially etch sketching the whole thing, just
Mm,
wiping the slate clean and taking on the same game, the first game's ethos, the idea of ultimate freedom from a new perspective, using new technologies and a fantastic game engine. Just a stunning game engine. What some of the tricks people have learnt to do in that game, absolutely incredible. But of course, there are two schools of thought when you come to a sequel. You have a game and you can go into one of two directions. You can make it bigger and better. It's Doom 2 for after Doom. Bigger guns,
okay.
bigger arenas, bigger
Yeah.
enemies. Or it's using the first game as a launching point to tell a better story, to tell a more well crafted experience.
Mm,
So the first one was good, and the second one uses it to get into the nitty gritty. I might, yeah, an example of that might be Infamous 1 and 2. The first one gave us a small playground with lots of abilities. Second one really went deep into characterization. And that worked
mm,
very, very well. The mechanics were the same, but it was a bigger playground, more players, more NPCs, and more options to really dig deep into who you are as a person. Excellent. This, I was hoping for the latter, but this is definitely Tears of the Kingdom is absolutely a sequel in the former. As I've done, when the first game, when it was announced, I was excited, drooling, salivating at the idea of a new Zelda game. But I have specifically been very, very careful not to be part of the media surrounding it. So I could come into this game with fresh eyes, with eyes anew. Now, there's a lot of new mechanics, and it was difficult to say, oh, where are you going to go with this game? Because the game used terrain, used its environment so well. I mean, it's legendary. It's literally iconic how much stuff they put in this game.
Wow.
So how do you put more in? Well, we've gone horizontally. Start going vertically. So adding stuff on top of one another. So in this game, caves, crevices, dungeons are now a big part of it as well. But also we have these floating islands above the kingdom. Yeah. So not only do we have the kingdom struck by what's called the upheaval, a massive, territory shattering environment where new things have slightly shifted around, but the major settlements are still there. But we've also got this huge verticality in the game.
Wow.
Not exactly on the negative, it's the same engine. It's just a polished version of the original engine. It's the same game. And after the game released, I started doing a lot more digging into the history and the mechanics of the game. And it turns out that this sequel started as DLC. It was just an idea that the developers who created the first game were like, oh, we want to add this, we want to add that, we want to do this, we want to do that. And all these little thoughts they had started convalescing, and they realized they've got so much here now, they can't fit it into Breath of the Wild. It's enough that warrants its own game.
For sure. Yeah, that's excellent. I mean, just before we move on to the next question, just as an extra question, excuse me, query of mine. When it came to the difference between, let's say, Twilight Princess and going after it, Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
I think the main distinction was that you moved from, as much as some people may have hated or loved it, you moved from the Wiimote to the Wiimote Plus. All right. So when it comes to the difference in the mechanics in this game, is there anything that is particularly different in terms of how you use the controllers?
Interesting question, because the technology is the same. Both the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom use the Switch. Oh, it's blacking out. There it is. There it is. Yeah. Use the Switch as its platform. People have been grinding their teeth about getting a pro Switch, a more powerful Switch, because this is a fantastic console, but it is the lower end of the console generation. And now we've got PC handheld gaming consoles that they're going to be game changers. So the game engine is very much the same. It's a little polished, it's a little smarter, but the way you play the game, the mechanics of playing, almost identical. In fact, I was able to stretch some of those old muscle memories, playing it, starting off, and then being able to pull off the same mechanics again. Fit like a glove. Okay. The difference comes with the mechanics within game. Okay. Not the way you play, but what you play with in game. Because the first Breath of the Wild established the game. At the beginning of the game, you're given a few abilities, and those abilities serve you throughout. So it's any situation, you have all the tools. It's just how do you put them together? How do you have a limited creativity, because the creativity is on your behalf. The game's not telling you how to solve the situation. It's going, here's a toolbox, and here's a thing that's happening. Good luck. And the audience loved it. The freedom to tackle any situation from a variety of ways was liberating, and it's one of the reasons why it's the original was so successful. This one has introduced fusing, the same mechanics from other games, and the ability to take one item and take another item and stick them together.
Wow, that's creative, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading an article in Forbes magazine the other day about how other companies are pestering or kind of poking Nintendo, like, hey, how'd you do this? How did you take your game engine and add a seemingly or nearly innocuous plus and minus ability, the ability to stick most items together, just take a bit of this and a bit of that, and we'll put that there and we'll put that there, and make it function in such a well polished way. I mean,
Ah,
the first game had shrines. You went in, it was a challenge, it was like a mini dungeon. So many of the shrines now don't have a solution, but there is a big pile
wow.
of crap in the corner
Oh,
which you could make your own solution.
okay. This is a very wow. God, this is wow. From originally from what you were saying, I was thinking it was a bit of a jump from Super Mario Brothers, the new Super Mario Brothers Wii, to the sequel of that one, which is
Hmm.
essentially the same game but with a few twists. I mean, a few tweaks. I mean, when I say it, to be honest, I haven't actually finished the second, so I can't even speak on. However, it sounds like this is a quite different. They've essentially, it's like they've reinvented the mechanics. I like the idea of, like you say, being a bit more of an open sandbox in that the way Twilight Princess works, like you're saying last time we were speaking with Ian. Oh boy, and that interview, sorry, it's still not up, but it'll come up eventually. Uh, the the way that Twilight Princess works, it kind of guided you down one path, and it's a bit linear because you had to use this tool in this way. And personally, I'm keen on that, but this is different. It sounds like you get to. It's a bit more like Play-Doh. You get to
Hmm.
fashion your own means to solve puzzles, and if you don't, then the puzzle just doesn't get solved.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Zelda's games historically have been fairly linear. I mean, a beautiful environment, but you go from this place, then this place, and this place. It wasn't open world so much as a guided tour.
Yes.
No, nothing wrong with that. I mean, some of in my top three, Twilight Princess is one of my one of the third best uh, Zelda games I've ever played. I absolutely adore it, but I can't go to other dungeons ahead of the one in front of me because the abilities and the items I need
Right.
are within that location. I have to go to this one if I want access to the next one. And that way tells a great story. It allows you to build a beginning, a middle, and an end, to have narrative peaks and troughs, which tells a fantastic story. We
Yeah.
get a hero's journey.
Mm.
But a truly open world game, it's difficult to tell a narrative because halfway through the story, you can go, "Oh, what's that?" and just run off in an opposite direction. So, Breath of the Wild may have been a fantastic world. The narrative was a little bit choppy. It's bits and
Mm.
pieces that you put together. Each of those pieces are quite stylized, quite high impact because they needed to last you for the winter.
Yeah.
Each narrative bite has to survive 20 hours of you bumbling around, climbing mountains, killing monsters, and finding the coolest fruit.
Yeah.
So, but this one now is kind of building, as I said before, it's the ethos of a sequel. This is a bigger and better game. So before, it allowed you to go anywhere and kind of do anything with what you had.
Mm.
This new sequel is a bit bigger and better. The world's bigger. There is more things to do. There are more abilities that allow for traversal.
Mm.
And if you haven't got the tool to traverse, build it.
Damn. Ooh. All right. All right. I'm gonna get my hands on this soon. It's terrible being broke in the meantime, but I'm glad that you can I can vicariously explore the world through your fantastic
Mm.
description. Now question two.